Hi all, welcome or welcome back. I am P.A. Clark from Damo Words Podcast. Today we are looking at medical beauty. Medical beauty is a brand new specialty. Well, I call it a specialty because it deserves that term. It is a specialty. However, unlike surgical beauty, medical beauty is brand new in our realm. And being brand new comes with pitfalls. So, between the perfections and the pitfalls, there's a long way we have to go to make sure that 100% of our treatments are safe, reliable, and long lasting. With that, let's talk about the lower face and the pitfalls versus the perfections. When we discuss the lower face, we're talking about the cheeks, the chin, and the jawline. How do we maintain beauty in the lower face? Or how do we kind of screw this up and have to wipe the slate and go again? The problem is you are spending the money. Therefore, you must make sure that whomever is touching your face is capable and they understand and they have the right products to work for you. Now, let's look at round cheeks versus angled cheeks. Now, my beautiful princess here, she has a sweeping jawline, medium cheeks. Her cheeks are not full. This is more or less an average 22, 28 slim individual with not too much fat pad or growth within the cheeks. And you can see that she naturally have some characteristic angles within the cheeks. And these characteristic angles allow the light and the reflection off of her face to point down to the center of the face. So everything projects down to her nose, her lips, and her chin. And that's the cornerstone of the individual's beauty when we are trying to recreate what they look like 5, 10, or 15 years earlier. So what are the pitfalls that can occur? If this cheek is over enhanced, then what happens is that her face becomes wider and puffier. Now, it may be a successful treatment, but not necessarily the best treatment for that patient's skin, facial structures. As I'm talking about this, as an artist, I use engineering to also get my patients to what their desired look is going to be. And as diamonds, we have angles, edges, and facets. The angles basically tells us the shape of the patient's face. The edges talk about how full, how wide, how sharp, pointing upward, pointing downward, or being neutral. And the facets is basically the empty spaces that reflects the light. If any of this is not in congruity, what happens is we're throwing off the features of the individual's face. So one of the pitfalls in treating the cheeks is rounding the cheeks on someone who's angulated. One of the pitfalls in the cheeks is angulating the cheeks when someone is rounded. So there are two basic face shapes or lines we're going to encounter. We're going to encounter curves or angles, and there's really nothing else. So if my client sits in the chair with me and she's got angles, if Angelina Jolie sat in my chair and she's got angles, I am not going to remove those angles. I'm going to accentuate those angles because that's what it was prior. So as I remove these other lines, you will see that this angle is very, very important to the female face. To the male face, the angle is slightly different, and that's going to be another show, a whole show involving men and beauty. So next, we're going to look at obliterating those natural angles, and that does not complement the curve. Many patients have angles and curves. If I can spot your angles, I can accentuate and beautify them. If I can spot your curves, I can do the same. Many patients have one or the other, but many also have both. We're going to slide on down to the chin. What happens with the chin is many times think of Elvis's chin, think of Clint Eastwood's chin. These are muscular, strong, prominent chins. Many of them look beautiful in women, and other times we want them or we don't want them. My rule of thumb is people want what they don't have and do not like what they already have. So if you have a strong, prominent chin and you've seen it for the past 25, 30 years, you kind of want something a little different because you believe that the difference is going to bring a little more beauty onto your face. And the reality is, it's not about what you feel is going to make you feel beautiful. It's what your face can work with based upon the shape of your face. So let's look at our chin. We have a nice, sloping, pointed, angulated chin. Now, if I were to round her chin more, that would definitely throw off her lower lip. As this region becomes more full, the lip looks a little more drawn or retruded. So the more this chin goes forward, the more the lips go back. And therefore, when we are augmenting the chin, we take into account the relationship between the upper, the lower, and the chin most forward point. And these three elements have a very basic proportion. Now, everyone is not the same, and therefore I do not work with standard numbers and angles and protractors and every other equipment out there. I work with my sight and what that patient is asking for. And this is why it's very important that I look at your pictures as to what you want, or I look at pictures of yourself or your parents. And from that discussion, I have a better understanding of what is going to be better for you based upon your likes and dislikes. But if I were to round this chin, she would not be happy. If she had a rounder chin and I created 2 points with horizontal flatness to the edge of the chin, she's not going to like that because this is not whom she is. When I'm speaking of round versus angles, this is very easy to accomplish, but only if your injector or your medical aesthetic provider understands the different products that can create a roundness or the different products that can create fullness or angles within the face. So between the fullness and the angles in the face, be very, very cognizant that if you change this lower portion of your face, you're going to change how your lips look as well, but you're also going to change your front profile and your angled profile. And sometimes having a full, robust chin is not what the individual face can tolerate. Last, we look at the jawline. Jawline is extremely important because the jawline changes with time. The jawline changes with time. So let's take this chin off. We're looking at the jawline. Most individuals, I would say she has a middle-aged jawline. Now, why am I saying that? As we're younger, the jawline starts lower. Imagine this pushed out more. The jawline is longer. As we age, we start to lose that jawline. And as we get older, say the 40s, the chin seems to connect to the ear. And you will find this in most individuals, that jawline has just disappeared. And depending on the product we use, we can absolutely pull so much youth back in that side profile by re-establishing the patient's jaw angle. Now, this jaw angle is lost. Why? As we age, the skin is aging. Yes, we all know that. But what's happening behind the skin? Behind the skin, the fat is changing. The mandibular cutaneous ligaments are changing. The muscle is getting softer and weaker. But more importantly, the bone is changing. And as your bone resorbs, meaning as your bone gets smaller and smaller, the jawline changes. So if you look at your parents, they're not only shorter, but their heads are smaller. Their frames are smaller. And that makes the skin and the fat that's adhered to the bone drops. As the fat drops, it deflects off the mandible and creates that pear shape. As that pear shape is occurring, you're losing the jaw angle. So aging, you can follow in some standard steps to tell you what this patient used to look like, and you can actually achieve her younger face with that treatment. Therefore, again, it's going to be the technique, the product being used. If the product doesn't allow you to accentuate the angle without giving bulk, you're not going to have a happy patient. So some of the filler products can give you angles, and some of the filler products can never give you angles. So we're not going to talk about names of the products, but we're going to talk about the type of product and the important number or the important scientific value that determines whether a product can give you that angle or will end up bulging the jawline or bulging the cheek or bulging the chin. If we are going to bulge the chin, we're using lower G prime products. And that word is very important. Please Google it, G prime. G hyphen prime, G prime, or G prime. G prime is very important in telling us what the product is going to do. And not all products are the same. A low G prime product can never give you a sharp angle. A low G prime can never give you a sharp angle. A high G prime does. But G prime is the combination of multiple values, and not to dive too deep into the rheologic studies or the numbers, we're going to keep it very simple. High G prime products, low G prime products. If you're looking for angulation on your face, you better make sure that you tell your provider, I need a high G prime product to create the angles in my face. And therefore, between the pitfalls and the perfections is understanding the characteristic value or the rheologic value of the filler being used on your face. You can't just use a filler for all of your results. You can't just have your practitioner grab a box of filler off the shelf and create your shape for you. And also be mindful of your Instagram before and after pics. Most of the time, that 5-minute after pic that shows a sharp jaw angle, you need to see the 2-week or the 1 month after. Most of the time, actually all of the time, if a low G prime product created this angle, it looks amazing for 2 days. And after 2 days, that sharpness disappears. So any Instagram shot that you find a sharp angle, look for that person's image 2 weeks, 1 month after. And if they don't have the sharpness, then a low G prime was used and that money was lost. Okay, that is it for now. That was a handful. That was a lot of information. There's a lot of rheologic or scientific values that I can give you. And if you're interested, please leave comments. I am happy to answer any and every question that you have, even if I have to go live for you to demonstrate and show you what these values are. Please subscribe. I would love to hear your comments. That is it for this show. For now, bye-bye.